This is Deep Dive. I'm Li Qi. As you are likely listening to this episode on your phone, and whichever brand it is, just imagine cruising down the road in a car with the same logo stamped on it. Well, for Xiaomi, a Chinese tech giant mostly known for its smartphones, this dream has become reality with the launch of its inaugural electric car model, the SU7. Within just 24 hours, the company announced that a whopping 88,898 pre-orders had flooded in. Meanwhile, contrasting stories are unfolding in other parts of the world. Despite years of investment and speculation, Apple's ambitious Project Titan for an Apple car has hit a dead end. And in Europe, luxury car maker Mercedes-Benz is backtracking on its EV commitment with plans to produce gas-powered vehicles well into the next decade, while an anti-subsidy probe is underway into EV imports from China. How did Xiaomi pull off this bold move? What does this mean for other automakers and the global EV market? To delve into these questions, I spoke with CGTN tech reporter Zhao Chenchen. This episode is brought to you on Tuesday, April the 9th. So, official numbers from Xiaomi shows that nearly 90,000 pre-orders in just 24 hours since the launch. And with a starting price of the SU7 from 215,900 yuan, that's roughly 30,000 US dollars, and that means at least $2.5 billion US dollars worth of pre-orders in just one day of sale. On top of that, there were also nearly 4 million people that reported to have watched the 2-hour live stream on WeChat. So, Chenchen, help us make sense that why has there been so much attention on Xiaomi's first electric car?
Yeah, that's some truly impressive numbers. But I would say that for any company that's a non-traditional car manufacturer, venturing into the passenger vehicle market would make headlines, even if we're just making electronic vehicles. You know that Xiaomi actually announced the message of car making that was 3 years ago, and everyone was shocked by then. After that, what remained was people's anticipation to see whether it could truly deliver one to the consumer or to the market.
Right.
And even for other tech companies who have business in the EV industry would avoid to be such a to make such a scene for car making. For example, Huawei and Baidu, they just said that they are empowering EVs to be more intelligent or human-centric. Because after all, car making is a money-consuming move for any non-traditional car manufacturers. And there are very well-known failures in such a transition. Now that Xiaomi finally unveiled its finished product in merely 3 years, that's terrifyingly quick, and successfully delivered over 5,000 units on April 3rd across the country. And it's also reported to be expanding its production capacity. These all prove something truly impressive, and I believe that's why it's grabbing so much attention.
Right. Because we know the EV market in China already looks very competitive. And what's Xiaomi's motivation to join regardless? And how might Xiaomi change the game in the EV industry?
Yeah, China's EV market is indeed extremely competitive with many the already existing well-known brands, namely Wei Xiaoli in Chinese or Neo, Xpeng, and Li Auto, and not to mention many more emerging startups and those derived from traditional petrol car makers, right? And these brands are positioned at different price market points and are catered to various consumer needs. But Xiaomi's SU7 is in direct competition with Tesla's Model 3. And I quote from Xiaomi's CEO, Lei Jun, who said at the launch ceremony
Right.
that it is in 90% of the performance parameters of Tesla Model 3. right? And he also further set the top of the line SU7 Max as a rival to the Porsche Taycan Turbo. That's something really ambitious, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So some industry analysts said that the entry of Xiaomi will definitely chip away at some of Tesla's consumer base, and it is making harder for other Chinese EV brands to sell their cars. But we know that Xiaomi, as a global tech company, is known for its cost-effective smartphones. And in China, it's better known for its ecosystem of electronic products and smart home appliances. I believe you own some of Xiaomi's products.
Not that I know of, but perhaps someday.
Oh, well, yeah, I own like a bunch of air purifiers and, small home appliances at home.
Hmm.
So it definitely comes with an advantage, with certain advantages, I would say. But the specifications and performance of a car, I believe, still remains to be closely monitored in the years following. And also, I'm not an expert on car specs, so I would say we'll have to wait until at least one day when I could get a test drive on the car to see if
Hmm.
it's a truly game changer. But at the same time, I've talked to another industry consultant who mentioned that Xiaomi's introduction of its EV is to complete its ecosystem. And only by continuing to improve the full experience can it secure a place in the fierce Chinese market. This idea of ecosystem that can provide consumers with a seamless experience of entertainment from your small screen to a larger screen and to the screens in your cars. But that was the ideal condition. And just see where it's at now, you can see how hard it is for any companies to make a car.
So it is a ambitious move, but at the same time, maybe risky to some extent. But
Right.
the EV market has been very popular, especially for the tech companies to expand their business too. Apart from Xiaomi, there have been other tech companies like Huawei, Oppo, Vivo, Meizu, that have announced their expansion to EV. Well, some of them are not directly making EVs, but maybe developing related technologies. And that makes people wonder, does the EV industry still have that much potential for growth?
Well, as we discussed, despite all the parameters of the car itself, Xiaomi's entrance definitely proves the potential, at least in China's EV market, and has brought positive signals to the market in general. For consumers, it's always exciting to see new products in the market. And Xiaomi's foray into the market is to boost purchasing enthusiasm of the general public. And for other new players, I mean, there definitely will be new ones coming in the coming years. It's also a good chance for them to observe and learn and discover new opportunities, perhaps, or possibilities of collaboration in this industry. Well, yeah, for this question, I have to say that I couldn't comment much on the market, but we definitely see a potential in the
Hmm.
EV market, especially in China.
Right. At the same time, on the other side of the world, in contrast to Xiaomi's successful launch of its electric car, Apple had just canceled its EV project 2 months ago in February. So the American company doesn't seem to be very confident in developing electric cars. And what's Apple's concern of killing that project? Because I believe it lasted, it's been investing for almost 1 decade.
That's right. And I think it's a money consuming project. However, I have to make it clear that there is no clear report on why it canceled. In fact, the project, codenamed Project Titan, was only
Hmm.
reported to be Apple's secret electric vehicle project. There has been numerous various rumors and reports surrounding it since its development, since it was first speculated around 2014. And only until February, a Bloomberg reporter broke the news that Apple will no longer make a car. So there was no official statement. But over the time, It has been reported that the focus and the scope of the project have shifted multiple times with changes of leadership and strategy. These all created the hazards around car making. And on top of that, other market watcher would say that the withdrawal of the project is more likely related to financial reasons. I mean, for any company, the rate of return for investment should be the prioritized consideration, right? It's easy to make prototypes, but volume production is hard and positive cash flow is excruciating. And a quote from Tesla CEO Elon Musk as he tweeted a few years back.
Okay.
So yeah, one more point is that some other tech media also commented that for any tech company who wants to move into the auto space needs a manufacturing partner. They need partnerships. But Apple's EV died as they lived alone. And interestingly, that's exactly where China stands with advantages. A full, comprehensive, and matured industry line, from auto parts to batteries to assembly lines, you name it.
Definitely. And it's because of this manufacturing capability that we have seen the burgeoning EV industry in China, but at the same time, a very competitive environment. Just a couple days ago, Tesla was reported by Reuters to have scrapped its plan on developing low-cost cars because of the competition from its Chinese counterparts, automakers. A report which was denied by Elon Musk. But now that Xiaomi has also entered this market, will Xiaomi's entry intensify this competition that already is pretty intense?
Well, I couldn't draw any concrete conclusion that whether Xiaomi's entrance into the market triggers a price war or intensify the price war. But let's look at the fact. Following the release of the Xiaomi's EV price tag, a number of car makers introduced their own incentives for buyers in order to prevail in the market. Xpeng announced that it would offer up to a 20,000 yuan, which is roughly $3,000, for purchase subsidy for its new model, Xpeng G9. And at the same time, Huawei's Idol M7 lowered its entry-level EV model also by 20,000 yuan. So you can see a trend there, but the market rule is anticipating that the production costs will gradually decrease with the advancements in technology and the scale of production, right? So it just follows the natural market rule to lower the price. But at the same time, I would like to point out another thing is that whether this continued technological advancement and lowered price will initiate or trigger new innovations in transportation. For example, flying cars. And we are already seeing many promising developments in that industry, with also a lot of emerging startups in China developing them. Not to mention, Expo will also develop flying cars. So that's something interesting to be looking forward to.
Okay, a lot of more exciting developments in the future to look for, but the competition is definitely present and does feel pretty intense among the automakers. And the Western media and the politicians have been hyping up, I'm quoting, cheap Chinese electric cars, and also how it impacts the car industries in Europe and North America. And the Model SU7 from Xiaomi was actually debuted in Barcelona earlier this year, which shows that the company clearly has an interest in the overseas market. And now that Xiaomi is also in the race, will this further raise these regions' concerns over the competition from Chinese electric cars?
Well, okay, I think we have to look at the initial goals of having electric vehicles. They are meant for us to cut carbon emissions, reducing fuel emissions, right?
Right.
And whether you criticize these moves or not, the challenges are real. The temperatures are rising and extreme weather events are more frequent. We have to take steps to address these issues. And Chinese electric vehicles, by introducing at different price points, are making EVs more accessible to the masses. So that will help us achieve the goals of reducing carbon dioxide emissions. Besides, Chinese companies are not just, as you said, flooding other countries with cheap electric cars. Taking BYD as an example, it's building factories overseas in Thailand, Brazil, and some European countries, and the United States. They're making buses, electric buses there. It's creating thousands of local jobs and promoting technological exchanges between countries. So that's a sector where collaboration is happening and it's making the market functioning in a healthier condition.
Thanks for joining, Chenchen.
Thank you for having this wonderful discussion.
Market research firm Gartner predicts that by 2027, electric vehicles will be cheaper to produce compared to their internal combustion engine counterparts, thanks to advancements in manufacturing methods and decreasing battery costs. However, this trend doesn't necessarily guarantee smooth sailing for both emerging contenders like Xiaomi and established automotive giants. Gartner forecasts that around 15% of EV companies founded within the last decade will face acquisition or bankruptcy by 2027, signaling a shift in the industry towards companies that offer superior products and services. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Deep Dive. If you enjoyed what you just heard, don't forget to follow us on your podcast platform. Just search for Deep Dive. You can also leave comments to let us know what you want to learn about China and beyond. This episode is brought to you by me, Li Yunqi, and my colleagues Zhang Zhang and Qi Zhi. Special thanks to CGTN tech reporter Zhao Chenchen. I'll see you in the next one.